My name is Wes Smith. I moved to Nanaimo in September, currently studying at VIU in their GIS program, that's Geographic Information Systems. And I grew up on Vancouver Island, so this in essence is coming home. I was living in Langley before we moved here, and I very much enjoy the island. My parents became Christians when I was young. I grew up in the church. The church has had a very significant influence on me, but it's been in my late teens and into my 20s where I began to think more deeply about these things and actually try to make sense of it. In some ways, challenge the ideas and then look for answers so that I felt comfortable with it, so that I was actually more excited about what I believed. I think from an early age, I've always appreciated being outside and noticing the environment that I live in, whether that be staring at bugs or watching how grass grows, believe it or not, to weather patterns, to all these things. I grew up in Port Alberni, which is, I think, nestled really beautifully amongst mountains and rivers and lakes and all of these great environmental things. So we were out walking, hiking, enjoying nature all the time. I always had an attraction to that. Living in Port Alberni, there also were conflicting ideas around how to use the environment. Some people wanted to use it to make a lot of money. Other people wanted to preserve it all entirely and leave it. And both of those perspectives seemed a little bit opposite and maybe a little too far on the extremes. I recognized early on that we needed to somehow find a balance between that. We're living here. God has given us an ability to use these things. I believe that they are gifts, and yet there's a sense in which we'd have to do that responsibly. So those are questions that I was grappling with from a young age. When I went to Regent, I encountered a number of professors and people and ideas that pushed me a little bit harder to think about these things. One class in particular was called Redeeming Creation, and essentially it was asking questions about what is creation and what is our relationship within creation. And that was the beginning of me starting to ask questions about how we interact with the earth, with creation, and in particular in a way that would actually bless other people. I began work with Arasha, which is a Christian conservation organization. They're in 22 countries around the world. Their philosophy is very interesting to me in that it allows for unique expression in each location. So where I was working in South Surrey, they're working primarily in education and in ways to engage the community in conservation, and the way they did that was by bringing groups to the site where they had all their facilities, and also to go out and help people asking questions, getting them to think a little differently. The biggest ways that they expressed this care for creation was through a garden, and that's where I was employed. I worked as the assistant garden manager for about 3 acres of vegetable production. We grew 50 different varieties of vegetables and a few fruits, and very much enjoyed what I did because it ended up being like a classroom where I could learn, but also where I would bring people in and teach. And that was a big part of Arasha, is wanting to share what we were doing and wanting to inspire other people. If you read through the Old Testament, you quickly get a sense that Israel, as God's chosen nation, is to be a blessing to the other nations nearby. And I believe that to be the case for Christians, is that we're meant to be a blessing to those around us.